Hi everyone, and welcome to another devlog video for the procedural city generator. In this short video I'll be taking a look at a new feature that is coming to the 1.1.2 update of PCG. This is going to be a fairly small update, but it is coming with a new feature that relates to how to spawn buildings that are very close together. And I've been sharing this picture, and I'm going to go ahead and slide it here. And you can see that if you look at some of the more, older cities, European style cities, a lot of the buildings are going to be right next to each other. And so far, PCG hasn't been able to do a very good job of this because of the way that I'm doing the tracing for each building. So I wanted to tackle this a little bit, and I started looking into it a few days ago, and I came up with a very nice compromise. So if you see now, if I go ahead and spawn my city buildings, you'll see that I have actually modeled some sample buildings here really quickly that they look a little bit more kind of European style. But this is what it would look like with the default settings, right? You will have a buffer between each building, and it will not be the same as the picture. But if I wanted to get this a lot closer, typically what you would do is you would get the building buffer. So if I have the city zone selected, you would get the building buffer range to be close to 0 here. But it still wouldn't be perfect, right? So what I've done is I've added a brand new option right here, and it's called adjacent building. It's literally just a toggle. And if you select this, I'm going to go ahead and select it for all three types of buildings that you see here, the spawner will make some internal changes, including things like ignoring the building buffer and assuming this is 0. There's going to be a trace buffer that is normally 10 units. It's going to ignore that. And it's going to do a few additional things to try to pack the buildings as close as possible. So now if I go ahead and remove my buildings and I click on reset batch and I click again, the buildings are going to try to spawn a lot closer to each other, as you can see here. Now it's not perfect. You're going to get some gaps here and there. So you may still need to come in manually and make some changes. But as you can see, it's way better. If your goal is to make that type of city, right? This looks a lot closer to that picture that I showed than it was before. As you can see, the buildings are basically next to each other, and I've had a little bit of a different buffer for the road, so it looks a little bit more organic. But you can see here that just by doing a simple toggle, the buildings are now spawning way closer. This works better when the roads are perfectly straight. If you start adding curves, then the spawner is going to have a harder time adjusting the buildings, which makes sense because you now have to account for a curve, right? So if I just add a small curve here and I go ahead and spawn my buildings, you can see that it's still trying to do the best it can, but just keep that in mind as you're adding curves. So if your city is very curvy, you may need to add more adjustments. However, it's still better than the previous mode where you had to adjust every single house. And that's pretty much it. It's something super simple, but I wanted to show it off because I think this makes a big difference if you're making that type of city. Some people on Discord have said that they are trying to make like a cyberpunk type city where the buildings are very close to each other. So this would be a very easy way of making that happen. I will say though, just a kind of a small warning, because I am trying to get the buildings as close as possible, this operation is a lot more costly than the regular one. I am doing way more spawn tries, and the step per building is way smaller. In other words, to spawn this simple road is about 2 to 5 times more expensive using the adjacent buildings mode than it is with the regular mode, simply because I have to continually do so many more traces per building to try to get them right next to each other. So keep that in mind. If you have a section of your city that is going to be like this, then it may be okay. If your entire city is like this, what I would recommend at that point is that you reduce the batch size, maybe make it half. So instead of doing 20 roads at a time, maybe do like 10 roads at a time, because it will take longer. But that is pretty much it, guys. Super simple. But hopefully, if you're making that kind of city, you are now have the ability to get it done in a much easier way. There's one more feature that I've been working on that I'm not sure I'm going to include right now. I'm leaning towards maybe including it as an experimental feature. You should see a devlog coming about that fairly soon. I'm super excited, but that should be it. I actually did not plan to make another feature update before UE5 came, but this just was too good not to include it. So there you go. Hope you guys like it. Let me know if you have any questions or comments in the video description. Sorry, in the comment section. And if you haven't joined Discord, again, I'm a lot more active there. Please come join us and let me know what you think. All right. Thank you guys so much. I'll talk to you in the next video.